Delighted to be here with you on this wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. Hopefully you have already either voted early or you are heading to the polls later today. Hopefully you go ahead and use your exercise your right to go out and vote. We highly encourage that here on 96.5 The Fan. All right, we got a lot to get into in today's show. Coming up in just a little bit, we are going to head to Washington, D.C. to talk about the top story of the NFL trade deadline, Marshon Lattimore. I believe it came down to the Chiefs and the Commanders, and Marshon Lattimore is now the newest member of the Washington Commanders. The Saints have traded him there. We'll go through the draft pick compensation and why I don't think the Chiefs ultimately landed Marshon Lattimore. We're going to be joined by Matt Verderam. He is going to come on the show after the trade deadline. So he's going to be on the show around 3:15 or so to kind of recap all of the moves today in the National Football League. And we're also going to be joined by the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, who obviously was at the game yesterday. We'll get his thoughts in reaction to everything that have happened. There are so many things to get into from last night's win. It was the same Chiefs game that you and I have come to love. This game was a little bit closer than it needed to be, but you know what? The Chiefs, they always seem to figure out a way to win. We will get to the Chiefs coming up in a little bit. We'll get to the NFL trade deadline coming up in a little bit. There is so much for us to get into. Again, we appreciate you listening and making us a part of your Tuesday. Hopefully, you have already gone out to vote. But before we do any of that, Rob, take it away.
Pizza time on the drive. Carrington, dial me up right now. 913-586-7965. Caller number 6 wins a pizza from our friends over at Pizza Tassio. Pizza Tassio is Kansas City's best New York-style pizza, and they have taken over the town. They lovingly use 100% whole milk mozzarella, all organic tomato sauce with locally grown fresh ingredients, all made by KC guys who both know and love pizza. They also have a killer selection of craft and local beers, plus unique wines. So whether you're hungry enough for a whole pie or just want a slice or two, be sure to visit them now at pizzatassio.com. That's pizza, Tascio.com.
I need you guys to do me a couple of favors. Number one, I need you listening to The Drive each day right here on 96.5 The Fan. I also need you to tell one friend. I don't need you to tell two friends that if you want some of the best pizza in Kansas City and you are wearing your I voted sticker proudly, then the best place to do that is right here with us on 96.5 The Fan. All right, I'm going to give you guys an analogy to kick things off, and I think this one is really appropriate. Have you ever wanted something and you really liked it, but the price was a little bit too high? Maybe it was an Apple Watch, for example. Man, when you saw that Apple Watch, you had to get one. You loved it. Then you saw the price tag, and you were thinking, it's a little bit pricey. But if the Apple Watch ever goes on sale, I'm going to get one because I really want an Apple Watch. And then eventually, you know what? You got a chance to get one on a sale. Maybe somebody was selling one, so you went out and you got it. And then you took that bad boy home and you put it on your wrist and you started using it. And you know what? That Apple Watch was everything you thought it was going to be. It was one of the best purchases you have ever made. That is what we experienced happen to the Kansas City Chiefs in real time yesterday with DeAndre Hopkins. I don't have to tell you guys that D-Hop has been in the crosshairs for Brett Veach and his staff for 2 to 3 years now. We called him Patrick Peterson on this show. You guys remember, Chiefs fans, there was a time there where Patrick Peterson was number one on your wish list. And for whatever reason, the two sides were never able to agree to a deal, and Patrick Peterson was never able to come play for the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, you know what? They got a second chance at Patrick Peterson. They got the offensive version of Patrick Peterson, and they went out and they got DeAndre Hopkins. And you can tell the amount of respect that is available on both sides. You could hear it in DeAndre Hopkins' voice after the game, how happy he is to be in Kansas City, how grateful he is for the opportunity to play with Patrick Mahomes, to play under Andy Reid and have a chance at postseason success for the first time in his career. Last night, they really needed DeAndre Hopkins. Travis Kelce was Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt was Kareem Hunt, and that was about it. They really needed somebody. You weren't winning that game with Xavier Worthy last night. You weren't winning that game yesterday with Noah Gray or Justin Watson. You were going to need a big dog yesterday, and that is exactly what they got from DeAndre Hopkins yesterday. He is the exact player that they went out and traded for. You knew that that was there, and we were all waiting to see when the usage was going to increase, when the opportunities were going to increase, and when he was going to be given the chance to go out there. He had 8 catches yesterday for 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was phenomenal yesterday. This team has had some red zone issues. I don't have to tell you that. Well, you know what? Throwing a slant to D-Hop in those scenarios is a really good solution to some of the problems that this team has had in some short yardage and red zone situations. Yesterday, what I saw from this team was them getting back to their formula and getting back to basics. Rob, you and I talked a lot about this over the course of the postseason. We talked about how this team had to kind of pare down its rotation, that they were too worried about getting Sky Moore involved or Kadarius Toney involved. Yesterday, it was a 3-headed monster. Yesterday, they won that game because of Kareem Hunt, and he had an incredible second half. They won that game because of Travis Kelce and how he played yesterday. They won that game because of the trade of DeAndre Hopkins. Yesterday, offensively, you saw this team really narrow in on who its playmakers are and who this team can depend on and who this team can trust. And at this point, for a pretty banged-up team that is missing a lot of bodies, this team yesterday, in the rain, in the elements, against a pretty scrappy Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, really had to pare things down and really had to let its stars be stars. And that's exactly what they did. Another game in which they heavily relied on Kareem Hunt, a game in which Travis Kelce got more targets than he's ever received in the NFL and had more catches than he's ever received in the National Football League. Maybe the plan was to bring D-Hop around slowly. That's not what happened yesterday. He got 9 targets, caught 8 of them, had almost 100 yards, and had 2 touchdowns yesterday. What we saw yesterday was the same formula that beat Buffalo on the road in the postseason, the same formula that beat Baltimore on the road, and the same formula that won the Super Bowl. This team continues to be, and we'll talk about the defense. I know they gave up that drive at the end of the game. They're one of the better defensive teams in the league. And Rob, their quarterback was great when they needed him to be great yesterday, and they heavily relied on its stars and their key offensive players, and that was the key motivating factor to this team getting a win last night.
It's very similar to the postseason to me. The Chiefs last night decided we're going to get the ball to exclusively our playmakers. Kelce got a ton of targets. Hopkins was really good on a ton of targets. They decided, hey, those 2 guys are the offense. They then gave 27 carries to Kareem Hunt. It looked like 1992 Christian Okoye out there. You're going to get 30 carries tonight, young man. Just boom, run the rock. And you know what they didn't do? Turn it over. That is what they did last postseason, and they won a Super Bowl doing it. That is what they had not been doing this year, and they were winning in spite of it. And last night, it's like the second time we've noticed, they just flipped a switch. Hey, we're done turning it over. No, best Mahomes game of the season, bar none. Hey, we're not going to keep wasting time trying to get touches for, player X or, hey, Xavier Worthy, we gave you a shot early, it didn't work. We're going to the big dogs. Hunt, Kelce, Hopkins. End of discussion. When wide open, Watson or Gray. But that's it. That's the offense today. And we're not turning the football over, and you can't beat us when we're doing that. It was the playoff formula. We saw it live and in real time. And if the Chiefs bottle that up again, they are going to be a real problem, not only in the regular season, and maybe that undefeated talk does start to heat up, but they will be doing what they did last season, because when they are plus in the turnover category, they're near impossible to beat.
Yeah, yesterday we mentioned this team getting back to its formula. I mean, yesterday it was pretty simple. Between those 3 players that we mentioned, between Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, and DeAndre Hopkins, they had 49 touches for 312 yards. As a total offense yesterday, the Chiefs had 384 yards. Yesterday was not a game that was won by its complementary pieces. Sure, some guys made some plays. We saw a couple of plays from Justin Watson converting 3rd downs. There were a couple key plays from Samaje Perine yesterday. This game was carried by its heavy lifters, and right now, this team's heavy lifters, they have 3 of them. The same way that last year you had to rely on Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Isaiah Pacheco, and this is just an example of what the Chiefs are. The parts and pieces have changed a little bit. The formula remains the same. This is the team that had to rely on its run game to get to the Super Bowl. They lost Isaiah Pacheco. They have done that with Kareem Hunt, as he has been a workhorse over the course of the last month. Travis Kelce continues to eat over the middle of the field. And in just basically 14 days, they have acclimated DeAndre Hopkins into this offense. They had 384 total yards yesterday. 312 came from their starting running back, their tight end, and their number one wide receiver. That is how this Chiefs team won the game yesterday, and that's how they remained undefeated. Coming up on the other side, let's talk about the NFL trade deadline, which ends in about 50 minutes. The Chiefs tried their hardest to go get Marshawn Lattimore from the New Orleans Saints, but it wasn't enough, as he's been traded to the Washington Commanders. We'll react to it next. Keep it right here, so drive.
The Drive with Carrington Harrison on your home for Kansas City sports. 96.5 The Fan. Brought to you by DM Injury Law. Have you or a loved one been in a car wreck? Contact DM Injury Law today and get the money you deserve. Car wreck? Remember, Mike's got this.
Hey Chiefs fans, this season it's time to share your gratitude. We want to hear from you about the Chiefs player you're thankful for. Call in and tell us your favorite Chiefs player and why they mean so much to you. Not only will you get to shout out your favorite player, but you'll also qualify to win $500 in high